Well, g'day everyone, Dave here. Just going to spend some time in the next few videos talking about follow-up Bible study groups or just follow-up to your evangelistic course. And the reason we're going to do that is because I'm just utterly convinced that unless you have a follow-up plan in place, it's almost not worth doing the first part. Now, there's a few reasons for that, but I just want to give you a few here, try and convince you in this short video before detailing how I run groups and giving you some resources to do that. So let me give you a couple of reasons why I'm persuaded that follow-up Bible study groups are so essential. Number one, people are starting far, far further back from Christianity. It's undoubtedly true. I think we all know it, that we live in a country here in Australia, but if you're in the Western world, most likely we live in countries where people are gospel ignorant. They don't know anything about the Bible. They don't know anything about God. They don't know the difference between the Old Testament and New Testament. A whole range of things. They don't know anything really about Christianity. Now, one of the approaches and responses to that is to say, oh, we need to start further back. So in other words, that we do a whole bunch of pre-evangelistic type stuff with people for a few weeks, apologetic type carry on, and then you finally get to the part of the gospel, and then you whatever, get them into church and so on. But I'm persuaded, that's a misreading of reality. I don't think we need to do that. In fact, I think you run a big risk of, in that pre-evangelistic time, not connecting well with people, and so they don't carry on the way that we'd want. So what I want to offer is that rather than starting further back, what we need to do is go further on with people. Does that make sense? So that we start with the gospel, the evangelistic course, which clearly and effectively engages people with the gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ. But after that course is finished, it actually then morphs into a follow-up group. And I prefer the format of a follow-up Bible study group. It's not the only option. There are several different options. People run different courses every term or whatever it is. But I think a Bible study group is the best. I'll explain why momentarily. But whatever you do, it's utterly necessary to have a next step. Why? Well, that's the second reason. The second reason it's necessary to have a next step is that non-Christians and brand new Christians require special love, care, and attention tailored to their level. Okay, that we need to pitch things at their level. One of the alternate things that people have done in the past is people have an evangelistic course, someone comes to it, and then at the end of the course, they bring them straight into their regular small groups, their Bible study groups. Now, because people are starting so far back, this means they easily get lost, or it means that they're very disruptive to the normal functioning of the small group. Imagine you're looking at Leviticus, which we are at church this term, or Ezekiel or something, and you throw a brand new Christian or a non-Christian into that space, they're going to be lost. Or if they're a loud person, they're going to be disruptive. A whole range of things there. Instead, what we need to do is get them in a group where they can slowly have a drip-fed ability to know the gospel more and more, to learn how to read the Bible, to have their questions answered, to discuss, to grow together. And so actually having content that's tailor-made for this is very, very necessary and very, very helpful thing to do. I think it's a wonderful thing. The final reason I'll give actually is a little bit different, and that's a pragmatic reason. But having a follow-up Bible study group, for example, rather than a group of follow-up courses, I like a Bible study group because it establishes the pattern of church life. So someone comes, they do the course of 5 weeks, that group morphs into a Bible study small group. Well, that small group then looks at content together for, I think it should go for a year. So you have your first 5 weeks, you have around 40 weeks of a school term per year. I think you need to provide 40 weeks of content for these people in their own small group. And by doing that, imagine midway through, they're just used to now meeting together to read the Bible during the week, which for most of us is exactly what we want for them in their church life, that they've joined a church, they're in a small group, they're attending on a Sunday. So a bunch of wins there for establishing patterns. Not to mention, you have the ability in that group to grow together relationally, that they're going to love one another, all those things, but also you're able to help them jump over to start attending church if they haven't started to do that, and probably just less than 50% haven't, and building up those sort of relational deep connections with people at the same level of their journey. Now, after the year, they can go into regular growth groups, or they can stay as a brand new one, whatever it is. However, having those groups, walking with people, brings together the three big principles of evangelism that are biblical principles. The Word, Romans chapter 10, people, the entire book of Acts. Besides the conversion of the Apostle Paul, God uses people in the conversion of other people. And so bringing in Christians and non-Christians together for a prolonged period of time. Acts chapter 14, when Paul establishes churches, he gathers them together, he teaches them and trains them. It fulfills the Great Commission that we catch and we keep, I think, in a really powerful way. But also time. We need to slowly allow these people to grow, to know how to read the Bible, what the Bible is, all that sort of stuff. So for all those reasons, I'm convinced a small group, Bible study group at the end of a course is the best way of doing that. Here's how we do it. In the 2 weeks before the course ends, so the course that I've got, Discover, goes for 5 weeks. So week 4, I jump up, or whoever the MC jumps up, or if you've got external leaders, you can get them to come up and say, hey, just letting you guys know that after this course finishes, a lot of people have found it helpful to keep digging into the Bible in a small group discussion type thing. And so we're just letting you know that there'll be an opportunity to let us know if you're keen to do that next week. I'll be there, a few others will be there, because anytime you make a transition, there's always continuity, complexity. This is when people drop off. So want to keep as much sustainability as we can between everything. Then the week after, in the feedback form, we mention it again. Hey, we might interview the leaders of this group. But I prefer to be there for the first few weeks anyway, just to sustain things together. And they've got an opportunity to tick the box whether they want to come. Now, whether or not they tick the box, they're still going to get followed up and invited to join this group. If they don't, well, we re-invite them to the next course. And I promise you that you might think, oh, well, they've already done it once. Doesn't matter. They're the great people to re-invite the next time. I promise you a huge number of them will come back and do it again. But if they do or they don't, they still get a phone call or an email or whatever type of appropriate follow-up if they've indicated through the time that they'll be open to that sort of thing, inviting them to come along and even just check it out a few weeks. Now, I've recruited leaders to lead this group, or if I'm just starting it off, I, as the pastor or the leader of this ministry, I will lead it, but I will make sure I recruit 1 or 2 or more, if I can, 3 co-leaders. Now, the point of this is that this ministry will require resource, and with the resource I mean people, other leaders, for it to be sustainable as years go on. You'll need a minimum of 4 people equipped to do this every year. If you have a minimum of 1 new group starting, if you do it every term, you might need more than that. You might not need that. But having a co-leader as a minimum of 1 to come along with you as you're leading this group is very, very important. The other thing to say on that is that leading these groups is not as easy as you may think. It actually requires a bit of nuance. It's very different to a growth group. You've got to pitch it at the right level, promulgate discussion in a far more deliberate, intentional manner. So getting co-leaders to help you and be part of that is just this essential thing that happens throughout it. So I then get my co-leaders in, the next week starts, so I make sure people are there. I'll ask sometimes a connection team people from the course if they'd like to come for 1 week or 2 to bring people. For the Christians who've brought a friend, I might ask them, would they come for a week or 2 to make sure their friend lands properly? The ability of the new Christian, not yet Christian inquirer to land in this follow-up group, that is the big thing I'm pushing for. That's success. That they finish the course, but then they jump into the next thing. So this is it's the big week where we want to see that happen. A lot of prayer and a lot of phone calls and trying to make sure that happens and make sure that the first week kicks off well. Now, we'll get into that next time, but just to recap, follow-up groups are essential. You might as well not have the first part if you don't have a next step. I prefer Bible study groups because I think they set a good pattern. They teach people the Bible. They promulgate discussion. They deepen relationship. Finally, co-leader. Essential to have co-leaders with you to build this ministry. And I prefer not to have those co-leaders be in the connection team, but this is a different group of people. It's not as simple as just getting good growth group leaders in. They need to be exposed to how to run these groups. In the next time, we'll go through how I actually run a night of these groups, and I'll give a link to resources and that kind of stuff. See you then.